What is the most dangerous force in a man? Not his muscles, not his cunning, not the years of experience etched into his face. It is the furnace inside him that burns with an unshakable belief, so absolute, so blinding, that the world itself begins to warp around it. This belief is not concerned with truth, nor does it kneel before reason. It is a divine madness, a sacred delirium, the kind that turns beggars into emperors, the kind that spits in the eyes of fate. Such a man does not walk through reality. He bends it, shatters it, and recasts it in his own image. When others retreat into the safety of what is possible, he storms into the impossible as if it were already conquered territory. His heartbeat is a war drum, his gaze a declaration of sovereignty. To meet such a man is to stand before a force of nature disguised in human form, one that does not ask if it should win, only when. You may call this arrogance. I call it the refusal to crawl. The man possessed by this holy delusion does not wait for proof, applause, or permission. He declares himself inevitable, and in doing so becomes so. Others live by consensus, he lives by decree. And you, listening now, will either shrink from this truth or take it into your marrow until it remakes you. If these words set fire to something in your chest, do not let it die. Let it consume you until you move differently, speak differently, until your very presence feels like an omen. If you are ready to stop begging for your life and start claiming it, then step forward. Like this, share it. Comment it into existence, because the myth you feed today will be the God you follow tomorrow. The reasonable man waits for the right season, the right omen, the right permission slip from a world that has no interest in his ascent. He polishes his chains and calls it patience, but the dangerous man, he moves as if the throne is already beneath him, as if the crown has always been his to wear. This is why history remembers the so-called lunatics. Alexander walking as the son of Zeus, Napoleon crowning himself with his own hands, Muhammad proclaiming destiny in the teeth of death. Their victories were not born in the marketplace of reason, but in the furnace of certainty. Logic was their servant, never their master. They understood what the herd never will, that men follow the heat of conviction, not the chill of evidence. Certainty is a contagion. It spreads without consent, seeping into the bones of those who come too close. When you speak with it, you infect others with your vision until they can no longer remember a time they doubted you. The masses crave this infection. They long to be relieved of their own uncertainty. This is why the man of unbreakable belief wins, because he offers the one drug more potent than truth, the illusion that truth is already his. The wise will call it dangerous, the fearful will call it madness, but when the dust settles, they will call it history. History is a graveyard of the cautious. Beneath its soil lie the men who calculated, who waited for certainty, who bowed to the altar of preparation while life's war drums thundered past them. Their names dissolve into dust, their careful plans forgotten before the ink dries. And yet, carved into the stone of eternity stand the mad conquerors, the ones who marched naked into the storm with no armor but conviction. They did not win because they were right. They won because they refused to imagine losing. Reason bends its knee to such men, for it knows it has no defense against the will that does not break. This is why the delusional man is feared more than the genius. Genius still seeks validation. Delusion requires none. Genius waits to be understood. Delusion assumes it already is. The former negotiates with the world, the latter dictates its terms. You can destroy a man's tools, his armies, his wealth, but if you cannot touch his certainty, you have not beaten him. He will rise again, as if defeat were a mere delay, in prophecy. And each time he rises, the myth grows, the air thickens, and the herd feels smaller in his shadow. Alexander's claim to divinity was not a metaphor, it was a weapon. His soldiers fought like they were led by a god. His enemies trembled as if facing one. When you believe your blood is holy, retreat becomes sacrilege. Victory is not an option, it is a commandment etched into your bones. Napoleon's self-coronation was not vanity, it was psychological war. It told the world, I am my own. Authority, severing the leash of tradition in a single gesture. Such acts are not moments of theater, they are seeds of empires. The same fire burned in Muhammad when he stood alone in Mecca, a single voice against a world armed to silence him. No army, no treasury, only an unshakable proclamation. He declared destiny so often, so loudly, that it became indistinguishable from truth. And in time, truth bent to his voice. These men did not wait for the world to confirm them. They confirmed themselves, and by doing so they bent entire civilizations to the shape of their will. People think they follow logic, that evidence moves them like pieces on a board. This is a comfortable lie. What moves them is the heat of another's conviction. The way a man looks at you as if he already knows the ending of the story, and you are simply playing your part. In that moment, doubt feels like betrayal, and the path of least resistance is submission. It is easier to align yourself with the man who cannot be shaken than to stand against him and risk being crushed by the inevitability he radiates. This is why delusional belief is not weakness, but momentum. It is the unseen wind that tilts every battle before the first blow. It makes the opponent question, hesitate, adjust. The delusional man forces the world to reorganize itself around him, as if he were the gravitational center and everyone else merely in orbit. Those who underestimate him are consumed. Those who side with him become part of the legend. And the legend, once born, begins to walk on its own, carrying the man further than his flesh ever could. Most men seek permission before acting, as if they were children asking to borrow life. The delusional man kills permission. He understands that no throne is given. It is taken. He does not audition for power. He performs as if the role were already his. Every word becomes prophecy, every gesture an edict. There is no "I think I can," only "it will be done." In this way, speech itself becomes a form of conquest, and silence becomes the pause between declarations of victory. Delusion must also live in the body, the way you stand, the way you enter a room, the way your eyes refuse to blink under pressure. These are declarations more potent than speeches. The delusional man moves like he is untouchable, as if the floor itself adjusts to meet his stride. His posture tells the world it belongs to him, and the world, starved for certainty, believes it. This is not acting. It is the conditioning of the soul until the flesh cannot help but obey. The world will hurl evidence at you like stones, charts, facts, statistics, voices of authority, all screaming the same refrain. You will fail. They will parade before you the wreckage of those who dared before you and fell. They will present their logic as a death sentence, signed and sealed. But the delusional man does not debate the evidence. He burns it. He does not bow before numbers or probabilities, for he knows they are the chains by which the timid bind themselves. He is already 5 years ahead, his mind living in a victory that the world has not yet caught up to. To the rational, this blindness is insanity. To the conqueror, it is vision. The refusal to acknowledge defeat becomes the seed of inevitability. When you see the crown in your dreams every night, you do not ask if it will rest on your head. You ask how quickly the world will realize it belongs there. Yet this madness must be guarded like a fortress. The enemy will not only attack your plans, they will aim for the myth itself. Doubt will seep through the cracks, disguised as concern, friendship, reason. It will wear the face of those you trust most, whispering for you to be realistic, to slow down, to temper your ambition. That is when the delusional man draws the blade. He removes the voices, even if they carry the scent of love. He seals the gates against every intrusion of caution. For once the myth fractures, once you show the crowd that you are unsure, their faith evaporates and the legend begins to rot. And the delusional man knows to lose the legend is to become prey again, another sheep wandering in a world ruled by lions. It is better to be feared than loved, said Machiavelli, if one cannot be both. But there is something greater than fear, more intoxicating than love: belief. Not the belief others have in truth or ideals, but the belief they have in you. When men follow you, not because they have weighed your worth, but because your certainty leaves them no other option, you have crossed the threshold into dangerous territory. This is not leadership as the textbooks teach it. This is empire building in the realm of perception, a campaign fought not with armies first, but with the architecture of the mind. Every story they tell about you, every rumor that spreads, becomes another stone in the citadel of your inevitability. But let us speak plainly. This path can destroy you. It can strip you of wealth, burn your reputation, leave you standing alone in the ashes of your ambition. You may be called arrogant, insane, deluded. And yet, what is the alternative? Safety? Humility? To be remembered, if at all, as a man who played it safe while predators wrote the laws of the jungle. Realism is the polite mask of surrender. It is the ideology of those content to be ruled. Better to risk everything and burn out as a meteor than to drift unseen as dust. For in the game of power, the truly dangerous thing is not delusional thinking. It is the small, fearful thinking that buries kings before they ever rise. The world is not just. It does not reward virtue simply because it is virtue. It rewards those who force it to kneel, those whose presence makes the air heavier, whose words feel less like conversation and more like verdicts. A man who waits for recognition will die waiting, his life spent rehearsing lines for an audience that never arrives. But the man who moves without fear of failure, who refuses to blink even when mocked, carves his place into history with a blade forged from his own belief. He knows something the crowd does not. Reality resists, but it bends to will once that will survives the first assault. The battle is always hardest at the beginning, when your belief is naked, fragile, and unproven. Survive that stage, and the very resistance you face becomes the stone that sharpens your edge. This is why the delusional man treats resistance not as a warning, but as confirmation. Every "you can't" is a flare in the night sky marking his path. Every skeptic is an unwitting herald, spreading his name through the currency of doubt. The greater the opposition, the more valuable the victory. For legends are not forged in silence. They are hammered into shape in the chaos of open defiance. He does not retreat when the world turns its teeth on him. He grins, for he knows that no one bothers to bite the invisible. And in time, the crowd that mocked him will mouth his slogans, adopt his symbols, and swear they believed all along. Such is the magic of surviving long enough for your madness to become their gospel. But here lies the razor's edge. Delusion, if left to grow wild, will devour its own creator. Many have marched into the fire believing themselves invincible, only to become nothing more than cautionary tales. The difference between a martyr and a monarch lies in the discipline of the madness. To weaponize delusion, one must also remain cold, calculating and adaptable. The will must be unshakable, but the strategy must breathe, twist, and evolve. Blind faith alone is not enough. It must be paired with the predator's patience and the tactician's foresight. Otherwise, the man becomes not a legend, but a lunatic burned out in the deserts of his own arrogance. When wielded with mastery, however, this madness becomes a force more dangerous to enemies than to the self. It allows for bold strikes others would never dare attempt, for gambits so audacious, they collapse resistance before it forms. The delusional man does not merely fight battles. He rewrites the terms of the war. He chooses the terrain, defines the stakes, and dictates the narrative until even his foes play their parts in his script. In this way, victory is not stolen, it is authored. And once the world has spoken your name enough times in fear or awe, it no longer matters whether you were right or wrong in the beginning, only that you were relentless enough to decide the ending. Delusion is not the final form, it is the ignition. It is the spark that roars against the cold logic of the world, daring it to extinguish the flame. It gives you the eyes of a prophet, the will of a tyrant, and the hunger of a starving wolf. But fire alone cannot shape destiny. Once the belief is forged in mockery, trial, and isolation, it must evolve into something far more dangerous. Myth. A belief can be doubted, a myth cannot. Myths live beyond the man, traveling through whispers, symbols, and fears. They linger in the air of rooms you have never entered, in the minds of people you will never meet. This is the true immortality, when your name is not just remembered, but feared, desired, envied, and recited as a warning. To live as a myth is to carry the crown in every gesture. Every word, every pause, every glance must align with the inevitability you have declared. This is not theater for the crowd's amusement. It is a private ritual, a conditioning of reality itself. Legends do not practice humility as mortals do. They move with the entitlement of the chosen, because they have already decided the outcome of their story. The crowd no longer sees the man, they see the force, and in their eyes, that force becomes untouchable, even when it bleeds. For once the myth stands, even your wounds are interpreted as signs, omens, or sacrifices for a cause too great to be measured by the petty arithmetic of the reasonable. Every victory you claim must be amplified until it becomes law. Never dismiss a win as luck. Never let it fade into ordinary memory. Each success is a chapter in your prophecy, proof that you are the architect of your fate. Even your failures must be twisted into stepping stones, inevitable trials foretold in the saga of your rise. People do not follow spreadsheets, they follow stories. And the most enduring stories are those in which the hero seems always in control, always several moves ahead, always fated to arrive at the throne. Let your victories be retold until they take on the shape of miracles, until your enemies fear not only what you have done, but what you might do next. But a myth, once grown, becomes a prize for others to attack. There will be those who live only to see the cracks form in your legend. They will provoke you, test you, attempt to humiliate you. Let them, for every attempt to topple you is proof of your height. The delusional man, now crowned in myth, must learn the art of silence. Not every insult deserves a sword. Some deserve only the weight of your gaze and the patience of inevitability. A ruler must never bleed in public. If wounds must come, they will be stitched in shadows, away from the eyes that would drink in your weakness. The myth is not the man's possession anymore. It is the kingdom itself, and it must be defended at all costs. The final stage of power is not when you speak your greatness. It is when others carry it for you. When whispers of your name ripple through private rooms, when allies recite your words as if they were scripture, when rivals adjust their plans, not because of what you have done, but because of what you might do. This is the viral phase of the myth, when your presence becomes a looming shadow, even in your absence. The crowd stops questioning whether you deserve power and begins to fear the consequences of opposing you. Your legend is no longer a tale you tell. It becomes a prophecy they believe. At this stage, the transformation is complete. The man and the myth merge until neither can be separated. The world forgets the starting point, the doubts, the mockery, the lonely first steps. All that remains is the inevitability of the present. You have become more than human. You have become a gravitational force pulling others into your orbit. This is no longer about ambition. It is about permanence. Kings can be dethroned, prophets silenced, empires broken, but myths endure, passing from mouth to mouth like sacred fire. And once the world accepts your myth, they no longer debate your right to rule. They enforce it for you. Machiavelli would have applauded this audacity. He knew the cowardice of men who wait to be crowned by consensus. He knew that the ones who control the illusion control the game. Delusional self-belief in its purest form is not self-help. It is self-crowning. It is the proclamation, I will not wait for history to name me. I will name myself, and history will obey. This is the art of bending reality until it forgets its original shape. It is not about waiting for the tide to change. It is about commanding the sea, and the sea, like the masses, will obey a hand that does not tremble. But understand this, once you wear the crown of myth, you are never off stage. Every move is watched, every silence interpreted, every choice magnified. This is not a burden, it is the tax of sovereignty. You no longer live merely for survival, you live for domination. Your task is not to be liked or even respected, but to be inevitable. Your name must carry weight even in rooms you will never enter, must tilt conversations, must shift alliances. The myth is the empire, and the empire must never sleep. To live like you are already a legend is to train reality itself to obey you. Every movement must carry the gravity of prophecy. Every glance the command of a ruler inspecting his domain. Even in solitude, you act as though the world is watching, not because you are performing, but because you are conditioning. Legends are not built in public. They are rehearsed in private until the man can no longer separate himself from the myth he inhabits. This is why the chosen walk differently. They do not hurry. They do not apologize. They move as if the air itself has been taught to part for them. And when victory comes, whether small or vast, you do not downplay it. You do not offer it up to luck. You claim it. You mark it in the memory of the crowd as proof that you were always in control. You turn every achievement into a verse of scripture in your unfolding gospel. Even setbacks become omens, events foretold in the secret architecture of your destiny. For the crowd craves not reality, but narrative. And when you control the narrative, you control the meaning of every rise and fall. By the time they realize they have been following a story, it will already have become their reality. But know this: the higher the myth rises, the more it will be tested. There will be those who dedicate their lives, that are shattering it, hoping that if they can wound the story, they can wound you. They will wait for you to falter in public, for your certainty to crack under the weight of scrutiny. You will be provoked, insulted, challenged. And here is where most men fail. They respond as men, not as myths. The myth must never break character. If you must bleed, you do it in the shadows. If you must rage, you do it in the war room. To the outside world, the crown never slips, the posture never bends, the certainty never fades. When you master this discipline, you become untouchable. The crowd begins to guard your legend for you, silencing doubts, defending your name, repeating your victories until they no longer remember which parts were truth and which were forged in fire. Your enemies, once loud, grow cautious, for to attack you becomes to attack the belief others hold in you, and that belief is now stronger than any fact. You have crossed into the rarest form of power, the kind that no longer needs your constant presence to operate. Your myth has become a self-sustaining empire, and here lies the final truth. Myths do not die natural deaths. They are either dismantled from within, or they endure until time itself weaves them into the fabric of eternity. If you guard yours with iron discipline, if you feed it with victories, if you protect it from the rot of doubt, then it will outlive you. Long after your flesh returns to dust, the story will remain, retold, reshaped, exaggerated, until it no longer belongs to the man who began it. This is immortality, not of the soul, but of the will. The weak will cling to comfort, the average will chase validation, but you will walk the razor's edge where delusion becomes destiny. And from that height, the world below will seem less like a place you inhabit and more like a stage you command. So, step forward, kill permission, speak prophecy, move like you cannot be touched. Burn the evidence that says you will fail. Guard your myth until it becomes law. This is not a game for the timid. It is a war for the architects of their own legend. And if these words ignite even a spark within you, then fan it into a fire that refuses to die. Like the video. Subscribe to the channel. Leave your comment declaring your victory before it comes. Because the world will not crown you unless you force it to, and here, we do not chase power, we become it.